I'm life-changing makeup and hair artist Trixie Mattel.
I'm just here to be pretty.
Hi, I'm Yvonnedeculo.
And I'm Jake Gloom.
And welcome to the Victory Lap,
where we talk about the latest episode of Season 8 of... Oh god, you look like Trixie. Ah! Stop.
I am giving budget Trixie Mattel if she went to Ross, did some altercations to the dress, and just kind of gave up after that.
It's not alterations.
Altercations. If you're wondering why I'm dressed like Trixie Mattel, and if you're wondering why we have a bad Madonna impersonator here, also known as Venus Delight, this week's episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 8 was the Snatch Game! Oh! Doesn't she do that a lot? You should have been Katya. And then we could have been doing... We're going to continue along with the trend that we did last week, and we're going to talk about each different queen. Let's talk about Chi DeVayne.
Chi-Chi's Snatch Game was actually really good. I thought she did exactly what you're supposed to do for the Snatch Game.
Eartha Kitt has one of those voices that's very hard to do, but I feel like Chi did a very good job at kind of capturing the essence of it.
She got the idea of it without doing like a bad impersonation.
You know how like Ivy was doing like Marilyn Monroe, but it was really like Julia Childs? I feel like it was nothing like that. For the most part, people don't really capture the voice, and I feel like Chi kind of captured.
She captured it really well. I thought the fact that she went with the whole Catwoman thing to the extreme.
Yes, I thought that was really funny.
Was really smart, especially since like some of the other queens tried to read her for it, but like when Eartha Kitt was the Wicked Witch of the West in that like 1999 version of The Wizard of Oz on stage with Mickey Rooney, she was still doing her Catwoman, and I was very impressed that she just literally whipped her Madonna look out of her little bowl.
She mentioned in Untucked that she created that at 6 in the morning. That was the whole breastplate thing. That was made out of tin foil. Fuck, I can't even like make a dress out of like normal fabric. Like, fuck me, Chi. I wish that she had been in the high group. I don't feel like her runway and her Snatch Game were deserving of just safe. Let's talk about Kim Chi.
Kim Jong-il.
That was such a risk because not only is it not a woman, it's a made-up character, and I'm surprised she was able to get away with it. And I was kind of saying the other day, like, I feel like Snatch Game is kind of like turning into almost a free-for-all, and it's not so like cut and dry, you have to do this thing.
My only thing with Kim Chi's thing was, by the time the execution actually happened, like I couldn't tell like, was she Kimmy Jong-il or was she just Kim Jong-il?
I think it was Kim Jong-un as a drag character.
It was really funny. Her weapons of ass destruction.
That was hilarious. It was probably one of the only funny things that happened on Snatch Game.
Was fantastic, and
she stayed in character the whole time.
She did.
She was giving full Stacey Lane Matthews as Monique. She was making the face the whole time. Like, she was really, really into it, and I was surprised by Kim Chi. She shocked me that she was that funny.
I didn't think Kim Chi was going to do very well in this challenge, just because Kim Chi is just kind of such a soft soul, and she's funny, but not in the way that you would think she would be for Snatch Game.
She's not laugh out loud funny.
Yeah, but you know what? She did it. She did it for me.
I would have loved to have seen her pearl.
Her runway look was probably my favorite kimono. I think hers looked the closest to the Madonna music video look.
By the way, I just want to say, and I'm going to get roasted by all the homos out on the internet, I don't know one damn thing about Madonna. All I know is that, bitch, she's Madonna.
You don't even know bitch, I'm Madonna. You know bitch, I'm a bottom.
Bitch, I'm a bottom. I know Pablo Hernandez's version. See, I wasn't allowed to listen to Madonna as a child, and as an adult, nobody was like, here's some Madonna, listen to her. So now moving into that runway, there were 4 kimonos on the runway. That is half of the runways. And sometimes, as a drag queen, you think, I'm gonna do this thing that I think is really out of the box, but actually you're doing something that anybody else would think. So like, sometimes the best decision is to think inside the box.
They heard, you know, a night of 100 Madonnas, and so they all went for the most obscure look they could come up with, except for Chi. You're gonna do a night of 100 Madonnas runway in front of Michelle Visage.
The biggest fan of Madonna.
Bring a freaking iconic Madonna look. Bring 3 Madonna looks. If you're gonna go out in front
Like
of
Snatch
Michelle
Game.
Visage, right, bring multiple Madonna looks, see what the other bitches are doing, and then pick a good one to not piss off Michelle. And honestly, I was kind of pissed off. I was really disappointed.
I was very disappointed in this runway.
I was super looking forward to this runway, and it was just a night of 100 kimonos.
This whole episode is a little disappointing, but we'll get to that. Let's talk about Naomi Smalls.
Let's talk about Naomi Smalls.
Let's
talk about Naomi.
Very bad impersonation of New York.
She wasn't New York.
The New York.
She was not Tiffany
so
Pollard.
many things that you could say. There's literally so much you can pull off of that if you have done your homework. But she did such an awful impersonation, and I wish she had just stuck with Whoopi, because even though she didn't really seem to be very funny, she wasn't confident in New York.
Whoopi Goldberg in The Color Purple is a little more monotone, and she might have been able to get away with it, but
she could have been safe.
Damn, she did Tiffany Pollard and did her a huge disservice.
When Alyssa did that horrible Snatch Game of Katy Perry, she was asked to tweet Katy Perry, and if you go back and look at the receipts, Alyssa actually did. She tweeted her and was like, "I'm sorry for my awful Snatch Game of you, I apologize." And I think Naomi should be forced to apologize to New York, because that was bad. Even Jasmine Simone posted, I think on Twitter or maybe on Facebook, and she was like, "I'm sorry, Tiffany." Like, that's when you know it's bad. When other drag queens who weren't even on the show were like, "Listen, girl, as the whole drag community, we're apologizing to you."
And I think Naomi should continue to apologize for coming out in the same outfit for the 5th week in a row.
And Robbie talked to her about that in Untucked and mentioned, "You've been wearing the same silhouette." And she doesn't get it.
It blew my mind.
It's almost like Honey Mahogany, where like Honey didn't realize that she was wearing all those caftans until it got to the end, and she was like, "Wow, I've been wearing all these caftans."
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, you got dressed in the clothes. How did you not understand that you put on a big, a bra, panties, and a flowing negligee? How do you not realize that you've worn the same outfit 5 times?
I did think her lip sync was very fierce. Do I think she deserved to stay? I don't know. Let's talk about Acid now. And let's start by talking about her lip sync. She knew all the words, she was very campy, and I appreciated what she brought to the runway. She did something very obscure, and I understand why she was at the bottom. It's for the same reason that Max was at the bottom. Max performed very well, but Max's Snatch Game was awful. The difference was that Acid actually knew all the words, and Acid performed very well, and Acid went into labor. Like, how are you gonna take a pregnant woman off of RuPaul's Drag Race?
This is one of those lip sync eliminations where I just sort of throw my hands up because I don't totally understand the logic that went behind it.
I've got it in my little magic notebook here. Naomi was low the first week, she was safe, and then she was high last week. Where Acid has been high every week except for last week where she was low.
At least, like, Acid Betty seemed to try.
People were saying that Acid should have done Pepper from American Horror Story.
So offensive. But all that to be said, like, at least she tried versus Naomi, who just sort of seemed to sit there.
Mm-hmm. And I personally think that Acid had more to bring.
I would have liked to have seen more of Acid Betty in the competition, especially since all of a sudden now she was starting to soften up. Mm-hmm. This Acid Betty, I would have liked to have seen more of. But this kind of more sensitive Betty, I was all for, and I'm a little bummed now that she's leaving. But maybe it was just when it came down between her and Naomi, maybe there was just something about her abrasiveness that just kicked her off.
Let's talk about Bob, the drag queen. Bob did the one thing in Snatch Game history that has never, ever been done, and that is she completely changed characters, costume, wig, and accessories midway through the game. What the fuck? The thing with Carol Channing is she's already been done on the Snatch Game, but I think Bob did it funnier than Pandora. No tea, no shade.
Not the first time we've had some repeats. I think Bob showboated a little with Uzo.
The answers were a little lengthy.
Which I totally understand, that is how Crazy Eyes talks in the show, but they were a little showboaty. The Carol Channing answers were much quicker and much more interesting.
They were funny.
And it was good. It was really, it was very fun.
I think the Snatch Game overall is nobody was really memorable to me. Like, I couldn't tell you one thing that any of them said. The only thing I remember that Bob said was, corn, it goes in the same way it comes out. And, like, I thought that was really funny, but, like, that's one of the only things I remember from Snatch Game. That's the only thing that I remember.
I remember
Bob
that,
did.
and Bob's other moment that really just made me laugh was, Eartha, is that you?
That was funny. As for Bob's runway.
Yes! Best
Bob
runway.
did the most original creative idea.
Genius. Like, that's what I'm here for. Like, if you're not gonna do a music video look, if you're not gonna do like a mainstream music video look, give me one of her iconic hashtag jaw-dropping red carpet moments.
She did her homework.
Bob's runway was hands down the clear winner of the
Yes.
evening.
Mhm.
And I think that's what got Bob the win for Snatch Game.
That being said, I did think that it was a little shady. Ru, you were real shady in this episode, being like, Thorgy Thor, your Snatch Game and your runway were really great. And Bob, you were good too. Thorgy, Bob, suspense making us think it's gonna be another double win. Bob, you're the winner. Oh, come on, you did Thorgy dirty, especially when Thorgy admitted that Bob was her biggest competition. Like, I felt that was so like, oh. I really wanted Thorgy to win. I just thought that moment was so shady.
It was so shady.
It was so shady.
I was super excited too. I was like, oh,
I was like, oh my
great.
gosh, a double win. Oh my gosh, it's happening. We're gonna finally get justice.
No. Justice for Thorgy.
I'm gonna start the hashtag. Okay, so let's talk about Thorgy.
Let's talk about this.
Okay, so Thorgy did Michael Jackson for Snatch Game, which I think is genius. A lot of people are really angry that Thorgy did that, and they're like, oh, well, he's doing a black character. But the thing with Thorgy is that Thorgy didn't do blackface.
Fact is, Michael Jackson was black. Even when he had the straight wigs and the white face, he was still a black man. So it's, you know, it's a really fine, hard to get into line. But she wasn't being insulting towards Michael.
No.
That's the other thing. She was doing Michael.
She was doing crazy batshit near the end of the rope, Michael.
And
with the baby, that was so funny.
I don't remember the question exactly, but it was cover with something. Covers it with, I was like, oh God, don't go to Thorgy. She's gonna make a blanket joke. And then, I said blanket, and look. It's just like, woo! I don't think people should get upset at Thorgy.
No, I don't think so either, because there have been plenty of girls on Snatch Game who have done things outside of their ethnicity, like Kenya doing Beyonce, like Gia doing Kim, and also like the thing that I always think about is the intent. And I don't think that Thorgy is doing anything out of malice or bad intent. I think that Thorgy is doing what he does out of love and respect. And I think that shows in his personality. So Thorgy's runway.
Thorgy's runway was probably one of the best of the kimonos.
Of half of the kimonos, of half of the looks on the runway.
Only problem for me with that was, same as Michelle said in the Untucked, that she had the bump it for her dreads. By the way, this is also the week that Michelle Visage found out that Thorgy has dreads.
Which I don't know how she didn't know, because Thorgy had her dreads in episode 2. That was her hair.
Yeah, but I mean, Michelle didn't know
That's
that.
true, I
Like
guess.
other queen, like
Could have been
Yara.
a really good lace front.
Yara came out in dreads all the time.
True.
They're all, you know, it's all weave.
I love her, and I still support her. I wish she had won the Snatch Game, because I don't want her to be like Jujubee, who makes it all the way to top 3 with no wins. And I feel like that's possible. Okay, so let's talk about Robbie.
She wins the other award for the best, most out-of-the-box outfit on the runway.
It's adorable.
For going for a League of Her Own, going for a Madonna movie instead of a Madonna music video or red carpet look. That was fantastic. All for that. Second thing I always say, shut up with your damn excuses, Robbie
I'm
Turner.
so tired of them.
And that's all I want to say about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore because it just makes me so mad. It's an excuse every week. 3,
Her Snatch Game was horrendous.
the look was great, but oh my God, so many 1930s, 40s, 50s actresses, movie stars that she could have done. I mean, doesn't mean she would have done them better. I mean,
She wasn't funny.
I'm starting to really like Robbie in the behind the scenes stuff. I like the way she talks. I like that kind of dry nasal patter she has with everyone. And I'm enjoying that part of it. But then she starts making excuses and I don't know. I see so much potential with Robbie.
So let's talk about the last contestant, Miss Derrick Barry. Derrick did Britney, who has already been done, which I think Britney was a better idea than who she was doing before.
Oh God, yes.
It was not good. That being said, I thought that Derrick's Britney was very funny, and I thought Derrick was Derrick was high. I thought Derrick really, really delivered this time, and I feel like the pressure was on to do it well, and I don't think that Derrick disappointed. I don't think Derrick did perfectly, but I mean, Derrick's not a comedian, so doing what she did, I thought I really enjoyed it. The oops, I did it again, diarrhea. That was so fucking funny. That was hilarious.
Oh, you mean between me down there. Diarrhea. That was good. She definitely was not Chad as Cher.
No.
Because Chad literally honored Cher and was hilarious.
Yes.
That was, genius. She wasn't as laugh out loud funny as Tatiana as Britney. I don't think anybody could top. I got lost.
Yeah, no one can ever top Tatiana.
And I think Tatiana maybe got some of the more like stereotypical Britney mannerisms.
It's caricature.
The caricature of Britney better. But I mean, Britney does actually talk like Tatiana did. I think Derrick was very much 2015, 2016.
Yes.
Britney, she's older, she's wiser, stronger than yesterday. The look was
spot on.
I mean, I've always been a little like, I don't totally see it with Derrick as Britney Spears. I don't know, something about it. I just see a boy, but I saw it there.
It's jaw.
It's the jaw. I saw it there. I saw it in the Snatch Game. You know what? You did it. You work, bitch.
Okay, so now I want to just kind of wrap all this up. I'm excited for Snatch Game every year. Snatch Game is, I think, everybody's favorite challenge. I think by far. Right next to, it's up there with the balls and the makeovers. Like Snatch Game, everybody loves balls. But everybody loves Snatch Game because they want to see what you're going to turn out. And this was, unfortunately, the most unfunny Snatch Game in all of Drag Race history. Even season 2, where they didn't know what they were doing, was funnier than this Snatch Game. And the only person that really carried this Snatch Game was Bob. And Thorgy had some pretty funny moments. Same, like, Derrick had a handful of them. But, like, it wasn't laugh out loud funny. It was kind of like, it was clever.
Last year's where,
rag on season 7 as much as you want. They had the funniest Snatch Game
between Violet as Alyssa
with her nails flying
off.
Kennedy.
Ooh!
And then Ginger eating all those Twinkies and dunking them in the wine.
Then Pearl down there like it's
shaking her tits.
There was
even like the visions that Jaden was doing. Like there were some really clever moments where like. You could quote a lot of past Snatch Games. I don't think I could quote anything from this Snatch Game that like I could say it and you would just bust up laughing.
Yeah,
like, oops, I did it again. That's probably like the only thing that you could really like quote, I feel like, personally.
I'm hoping that Logo puts out like some more scenes from Snatch Game type video and maybe there was more that we just didn't see.
I feel like it was also partly like the judges weren't really funny either. Like they're beautiful, the glamour supermodels,
and they totally knew what was what with drag.
Yeah,
so
but they didn't really give like really funny answers that kind of helped the queens bounce off of.
We need the Browns back.
And yeah, we need the Browns back. Even last year, Tamar was giving it to me.
Bring me back, Tamar. But you know what? If we're gonna talk about Snatch Game, and if we're gonna talk about the lovely women who were on Snatch Game this year, I think there's one woman that we need to mention.
Charo! I gagged. I literally screamed. I was gonna say, why has nobody had Charo before? But I forgot that Yara did her for RuPaul's Gaffin.
Charo is a gift. And it was... The only thing that would have been better would have been if her Highness, Queen Hanny herself.
Oh my gosh. I need Stacey Lane Matthews to show up at some point in this season and just snatch the crown. Also, on top of it, I wasn't really overwhelmed by the runway. And even Untucked, I was a little
Untucked was a little dull.
It was a little dull. Just this whole episode was a little like, it wasn't as good as the previous ones. Yeah. And it's disappointing because Snatch Game is one of those that really shows you who is a top contender for this game. And I feel like it really just boiled down to Bob, Derrick, and Thorgy.
Well, I mean, Bob and Thorgy and Chi.
Bob, Thorgy, Chi, and Kimchi. I mean,
it was what we already knew. I don't know. I just feel like it's pretty obvious. Like it's gonna come down to Bob and Thorgy, unless a strange twist of fate.
I was just thinking about that song.
Unless a strange twist of fate,
knocks Thorgy out.
Knocks Thorgy or knocks Bob out.
Which could happen.
It could always happen. It could always happen.
And look what happened to Max. Max won 2 challenges and just went home.
Unless something like that happens, I think, they're the obvious winners. And I think it's obvious who's not gonna win.
So thank you again for your continued support as we ramble on and on and on about these queens. Let us know what your thoughts were about the Snatch Game. Follow this bitch on Instagram. You can find me at Yvonnedeculo on Instagram. And this one too. What's your plug? Shamelessly plug yourself.
Jeez. You can find me on Instagram. It's Jake Gloom. My face looks like Darien Lake as the head. I'm not a monster!
Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Victory Lap with Tracy Martell.
We'll be back next week, whether you want us to or not.
Say goodbye to her.